Hey guys, so today I'm in the office instead of home, trying to get a different scenery. Now we'll go over these 5 questions together. So the first one is to ask yourself, is it worth it? Instead of asking yourself if you can or if you want to buy it, I'd like you to ask yourself, think about this purchase and ask yourself, how much happiness is it going to bring to my life? How much value is it going to bring to my life? How is it going to make me happy today, tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now? Now, it doesn't mean that you should really try to restrict, and not buy anything. I just want you to be mindful, before and when you make a purchase. And a good trick that I'm gonna give you is, if you want to make a purchase, and unless, it's absolutely necessary, try to wait at least 30 days before you make the purchase. If you want this new coat, don't buy it on an impulse. What you want to do instead is wait 30 days, actually ask yourself, well, do I actually want that coat in the end? Because many times you realize that actually you don't need it. The 2 other coats that you already have home is plenty enough. Similarly, for example, with Amazon, nowadays it's so easy to add stuff to your cart. You don't even need to input your credit card, press pay, bloop, and it arrives a few days later. Well, I would advise you, try, instead of buying right away, to build a cart, and only press pay at the end of the month, let's say. And you might realize that before you press pay, you might be like, actually, this that I added 2 weeks ago, I actually don't need it that much, so we'll remove it. And that will really help you in the long run, saving on those purchases that you might not actually need. The second question that you need to ask yourself is, how much money do you actually need to make to afford this purchase? Because when you buy something, you're actually buying it with after-tax money. Meanwhile, the government also add tax on top of the original price of the item. Now, the third question that I want to talk about today is to think about how much hours am I actually spending on that purchase. And before we go in detail into this question, I want to give you a few numbers, okay? The average life expectancy in the US is 79 years old. That is 692,000 hours to be alive. And with roughly 460, let's say, let's round it up to 461,000 hours to be awake, and the rest of the time you'll be sleeping. Now, let's say you are 30 years old, where you need to remove some of those years. So now, if you are starting at 30 years old, that's 286,000 hours that you have left before you supposedly might die to be awake. So in order to think with this question, you need to do a small calculation, which is the advertised price, okay, divided by the after-tax hourly rate. And that will give you the number of hours traded to make that purchase. And what I would advise you is, instead of using the after-tax hourly rate of your full-time job, instead you take into account your full list of income divided by 24 hours in a day. So, full list of income per day divided by 24 hours in a day, and use that number for the hourly rate. Sure, it's going to give you a much bigger number of hours traded, because now, your hourly rate, when you consider the time that you are asleep, will be much smaller. But that will do 2 things. First, because that number is bigger, more hours spent kind of living in order to make that purchase, it's going to make you think twice. Instead of showing you, it might only take you let's say 6 hours, instead it might tell you, it's actually 30 hours that you need to be spending on that purchase. And that could, make you think twice on making that purchase. But also, the more you think about that number, okay, divided by 24 hours a day, the more it will push you to try to think about ways to increase that income throughout the day and throughout the night. Don't only think about, the regular 9-to-5 job. Try to think of opportunities, ways to make money that make you money not only when you are at your desk working, but throughout the entire day, throughout the entire night, throughout your life, basically. The fourth question I want us to talk about is the per use cost. So that's a very important one, because let's say you buy that t-shirt, okay, and you use it, let's say 2 times a week, that could be 100 use in a year. And if you divide the cost, let's say that was $30, and you divide that cost, that end up being a pretty good purchase, But instead, if you buy a very nice coat, and you only end up using it, let's say twice, twice a year, that coat will probably be way more expensive than that t-shirt. And on top of that, you only use it twice a year. So now the actual price per use is enormous. So it might make you think twice, you know, be like, do I actually want to spend that amount of money on something I'll basically almost never use? And the fifth and final question that I'd like you to ask yourself before you make any purchase is, how much is that going to cost me in the long run? So part of this question is twofold. Now it can work with a jacket, for example. So let's say, you know, this $400 jacket that I bought like 4 years ago. You can ask yourself, how much did that purchase cost me at the time, and how much money would it be worth now, you know, in the future? Well, let's look at that, for example. If you consider like these purchases, for example, this $400 coat, well, let's say you don't buy the coat, but instead you reinvest this $400 into some investment vehicle that would return 6% year over year. Well, let's say you invest for 10 years, okay? You invest $400 for at 6% interest for 10 years. That would account for $727. So it would be $328, you know, that you gain on top of those $400. So if you didn't invest or buy that coat, you would now have $730 in your pocket instead. Where it's even more powerful is really with like recurring type of expenses. You know, for example, it could be, you know, Netflix, Spotify, Audible, even like your gym membership or any kind of membership that's monthly recurring payments. Well, let's say you take Spotify, that's, you know, $10 a month, and Netflix, that's maybe, let's say, $10 a month as well. Let's say $20 every month, okay, that you reinvest monthly, okay, at 6% over 10 years. That would be $3,278, okay? So in 10 years, if you don't spend these $20 month over month, that would account for $3,278 that you would now have had accumulated. So yeah, it's a huge amount. Like that's why, like, for expenses as small as they can be, if it is months over months recurring expenses, it will add up over the years. So that was the fifth question, you know, that I wanted you to ask yourself every time you make a purchase. All these small expenses that you have months over months, that on its own looks small. You know, it could be even like a coffee, you know. You spend a coffee every day, you know, it's only $1 or $1 or $2 every day. Doesn't sound like much, but over a 10-year period or over your entire life, if you had reinvested that money, it adds up to a huge amount. As I'm going through the footage just now, I realized that I had a piece of hair for the entire video. So please, for the hair, leave a thumbs up. Thanks, guys. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Certainly I enjoyed making it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please leave a thumbs up, like just, you know, destroy this like button, or just simply gently press it the way as you prefer. Add a comment, you know, any ideas on a subject that you would like me to cover, just comment down below, and subscribe. That really helps. So thank you, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.